Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about CSS resets, what they are, do we need them, and kind of just cover a few different options. So as a beginner, I never really understood what a CSS reset was and why I needed it. So the purpose kind of behind it is all the different browsers, um, they're different, right? So they kind of come with different styles and spacing and padding, margin, all that kind of stuff. And they render some of the HTML elements that we've covered and even other ones we haven't covered. They just display differently, or they might look slightly off, or might have a border or a shadow, or just different things. So what a reset does is takes certain elements in our CSS, selects them, and applies a general style to make it consistent across all the browsers. So for the most part, the CSS resets, they do a pretty good job. But there still are those elements that might come up that still just don't look correctly, and sometimes there's just nothing we can do about it. So the reset, yeah, again, just trying to help your project look consistent across all browsers. So if you don't have a reset sometimes and you're just writing CSS, the first thing you'll notice usually is there'll be like a space or a gap with all your content, and that's because the body or the HTML element or something has some margin on it. And so if you don't apply like a margin 0, as we can see here, then you're going to kind of get that space and it might not look the same. And so yeah, so usually when someone just includes a CSS reset, they don't even know really what they're doing or why they even have it. They just know it works. So we don't want to do that. We don't just want to include it and not really know what's going on. We want to look through some of them. So let's talk about it. The very first one that's pretty popular, it's called normalize.css. And it's pretty good. I've used it, and yeah, so let's look at it. So if we just go here, normalize CSS. So it's documented really well. That's one thing that's nice. So you can kind of understand, hey, well, what's happening here? Why are they setting it to that? And that's great. So you can see here, as I mentioned, about the margin on the body. So we've zeroed that out. So it takes care of some things. So here's what I like about it. It helps you get going, makes everything consistent. However, there might be some things in here that you don't really need. Like, have you ever even heard of any of these elements? Do you use them consistently? Well, then why do you want them in your CSS, right? So if you are using them frequently and you knew kind of what was happening here, or what they were all about, this might be great. But starting out, you probably don't really need or want this. So like some other ones here, yeah, those, these are good styles, good things to have. This is good, but we don't really include anything to do with like our responsive images. So yeah, again, it just kind of gets you off the ground running. A lot of these things are great, but it might not be the best just to chuck it in the project and call it good. A better way to go about it, especially as a beginner, would be to write your own. This way, when something isn't like maybe working consistently, you can always use this as a reference. And then maybe grab those styles out and put it in your own. But that way you know exactly what's in your project, what's in your CSS, and you're able to have a lot more control. So like here's one I've written. Now this is Sass, so I know we haven't covered that yet. So if it looks a little weird, don't worry. But for the general purpose of this, you can see how I've just organized all my raw elements, my selectors, right? And just added a bunch of styles that I know what I want it to look like out of the box when I create a new project. And if anything maybe doesn't look right, then I can always improve upon this for the next project. And this has helped me a lot, and it kind of gets you familiar and learning. And I know earlier we were just talking about specificity. Man, that's such a tricky word. And our selectors, and how I said we should always use classes, right? In this case, since we're resetting, it's okay to probably use and target just those natural selectors. So out of the box, what's on a P element? And is there anything else going to be on it? No, I want to make sure there's no margins out of the box on it, and my font size is consistent. So that would be a good use case. So that's something you should look at. Create your own, use this as a reference, but go in and clean it up and remove the stuff that you might not need or use. Another one, so we can see some of these. This one's called Reset CSS. And I mean, check this out. We've got all these things just to zero out the margin. Man, I don't know. Do we want that? I guess it just depends. So it's pretty quick and easy. It'll do the job for you, but you know, there's things that you're not sure like what's happening, and that's something you'll kind of want to look at before you just add it to your project. I really like this lady. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name, but she's super cool, provides just really awesome articles and content, and I love following her. I'm subscribed to her email subscription articles, whatever she sends out. So, and she kind of covers this and gives examples about all of them. And you can see here, one of the things I really liked is this little poll here. So yeah, a lot of people use normalized, but the second biggest one is my own custom reset. And I feel like this is just kind of the de facto. Everyone just goes to that, uses it, and doesn't think much else about it. And that might not be the best way to go or begin. So I'm kind of leaning more right here where we should use our own custom reset. So how do we use these? If we go back here, you can use like a CDN. And if you're not really familiar with that, it's just a content delivery network. So we can go here and it provides a link to it that links to another website that's hosting that package, and then you can, you know, put that in a link element like we talked about here, how we add a link to our style sheets. You would just create another one of these and then copy where this URL is located. Another way you could do it, you could just write your own, right? And then back here, right here it says download. So what you could do is just copy all this and put it in a new file and name it normalize, and then include that in our project. So that's another option. But yeah, anyways, something to look at and check out and see what works best for you. If this works best, great, go for it. If you want to try to learn each of the things on your own and kind of see what the differences are, maybe not include this. Anyways, let me know if you have any questions just in the comments below. All right, chat with you later.